Like we work with a lot of clients, great, that are putting in like 500, 600, on average about $500, $600 a month, and just max funding them for the retirement side. So hopefully you guys can get a pretty good value here on how to go about the IUL. And my style, I'm not the big motivation kind of guy, so don't expect that out of me, please. I want to give you guys like tangible knowledge on how to set up an IUL, how it works, so that way as you're pitching it to the clients, and the pitch is a wrong word to the clients, but you're able to build value in different ways. There's a tons of different uses on the IUL space and how to use an IUL. So I want to give you guys some tangible bits and pieces that you can take away to figure out how you can best set up IULs either for yourself or for the client.
Hi, everybody. Grady Polson. Welcome to the America Agency. Right now, I've heard Dan's name for years. I've heard, you can tell the reputation of a person about how others talk about them. And people speak very highly about Dan, his passion, his skill set, his ability to sell, his ability to train. And so it's been a long time coming, but I'm super excited to have him on here. He's got a great IUL presentation. But, as we jump into that, Dan, I'd love for people to get to know you more. Your background, how you found insurance, how long you've been, in this amazing industry, and anything else you want to share.
Yeah, of course. And again, thank you, Grady, Jade, and Tasha. I appreciate you guys having me on and getting all that figured out here. So give you guys a background, and I'll get right into the presentation. So I think just like everyone else, I don't think you wake up and say, Mom, I'm going to be an insurance agent or a retirement strategist, right? That's same thing happened here. I did the whole corporate America, or went to school, got degrees, worked in corporate America, traveled around the world. And then I didn't like working for someone else, Grady. It just, at the end of the day, there's nothing wrong with it, but that's not my personality. So after 2 years, and I ended up putting in my 2 weeks notice, got into final expense sales, and saw all these ads at FFL. So did the whole final expense, was living down in South Carolina. Then I moved to Orlando, was driving to Jacksonville half the week, down to Port Charlotte. If you guys are familiar, so completely opposite side of the state. Put like 70,000 miles in my car a week. And then I started getting more into the IUL space. So I actually ended up booking myself a one-way ticket down to Medellin, Colombia, and said, I got to figure this out because I love traveling and I don't want to, I've been grinding right for 3 years. I'm like, there's got to be a way to have your cake and eat it too. So I hate this saying you can't have your cake and eat it too, because as an entrepreneur, that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to figure out how to have the best of both worlds. So I went down there, started doing like final expense and mortgage protection over the phone. And then that transitioned into IULs about 3.5, 4 years ago. And then we transitioned the whole agency over to IUL. So now we specifically focus on MaxFunded IULs. So that's what we're going to be looking at for like the tax-free retirement side of things, and getting into the annuity space as well. And a lot of what we train our agents, we'll go over in the presentation too, is we don't really sell the IUL per se. We build a lot of value. It's not like a hard sale. Whenever we're going through this, we pride ourselves on providing a lot of value to the client, and can we solve their problem? So I never like to just sell the IUL as the best thing since sliced bread, because it's not. It's amazing. Don't get me wrong. I have one myself and I love it. But there's a lot of great vehicles out there, and this is just one part of a person's well-rounded retirement portfolio. So taking all that into consideration, we work with a lot of clients, great, that are putting in like 500, 600, on average about $500, $600 a month, and just max funding them for the retirement side. So hopefully you guys can get a pretty good value here on how to go about the IUL. And my style, I'm not the big motivation kind of guy, so don't expect that out of me, please. I want to give you guys like tangible knowledge on how to set up an IUL, how it works, so that way as you're pitching it to the clients, and the pitch is a wrong word to the clients, but you're able to build value in different ways. There's a tons of different uses on the IUL space and how to use an IUL. So I want to give you guys some tangible bits and pieces that you can take away to figure out how you can best set up IULs either for yourself or for the clients.
Awesome, dude. Well, your lack of motivation is coming off with passion. It's talking about $600 a month policies and living abroad in Colombia and making money. So, motivation aside, you're painting a pretty gosh darn good picture about why to learn this stuff. So,
yeah, I appreciate it again, Grady. So if you guys could actually just help me out in the comment section here, just so I kind of understand what I'm working with at the beginning. It helps me figure out how to present to y'all and how to provide the most value. On a scale of like 0 to 3, 0 meaning I'm brand new to the IUL space, and 3 meaning, I don't know, you issue pay like 30, 40K a month plus an IUL premium. If you could just drop it into the chat, that would help me kind of figure out how to present this to you guys.
I would bet these are a budding group of young excited agents. So
Sweet.
Riyadh,
Cool. Okay,
yeah,
I got it.
what's
Riyadh,
up,
what's
bro?
up, Riyadh? Got it. 3-0. Okay, cool. So a little bit all over the place. Awesome. So I think this presentation will be very, very good for the folks, especially on 0, 1, 2, that are really trying to get your feet wet in here and start providing a lot of value on IULs. IULs are a phenomenal tool, and the persistency of them is really, really solid, and it's something that you can easily go out there and you can talk to, one of my agents was talking to people at Walmart, ended up selling them a policy on an IUL for a retirement side. I don't know how that came up, but it's a really, really cool product for you to provide a lot of value for your warm market as well. And you'll start finding some pretty big premiums. And I know we have clients that put in 5, 10K a month. I got a client here next week, I'm putting in 100K a year into his policy. So there's really, really cool stuff that you can do in this space. So let me go ahead and I'm going to share a presentation that I put together for y'all. And I've never done on StreamYard before. So just let's see if I can figure this technology out. All right, great. Are you guys looking at my PowerPoint now?
We see it. Well, let's just boom. There we go.
Sweet.
Yes.
Okay, cool. So I can't see y'all.
All right, we're figuring it out. We're gonna get through it, bro.
Okay, you can see me right now, Gray, or see the screen?
Okay, cool. Your slides, everything, man. Thank you so much. Everyone, give a drop of 1 in the chat to show Dan some love for going above and beyond. One of our
appreciate it. And if you're dropping it, great. If you could help me out when I guess when I'm sharing this here, I cannot see you guys anymore, so it just looks like I'm talking at a screen. So if there's anyone that has a good question or something in the chat, please just let me know so I can make sure I
getting some ones, bro. A lot of people are grateful. So
cool. Sweet. Appreciate you guys. So what I want to help you guys cover today, why an IUL is going to be very relevant especially in today's market. And again, my specialty is going to be on the max-funded IULs. So we're going to go through how to structure them, some growth, some loan options, some tax benefits on that side. The annuities, we're probably going to bypass that just for time purposes, and how to position yourself, how to position an IUL in a real life situation, and then also your role as an expert advisor. And as we get towards the end of that, all the way on the right-hand side, I'll just kind of give you guys some tips and tricks that I use in my presentation that helps build a lot of value. And what I've just seen over the years from agents that are able to sell at a very high level. And it's people that sell at a high level, they're not actually selling. If you guys ever watch or listen to Alex Ramosi, just drop a 1 down in the chat. And there's actually one of his books over here, but the $100 million offers, I believe it was that book. It was going through is that it was giving a story about CarMax and used car salesman. And no one likes the used car salesman, right? Everyone hates going into the dealerships. They're worried about, just, buy this, and just getting sold, but no one actually caring about them. Well, and then CarMax comes along and they changed their salary commission structure. So it was a lot less salesy, but their sales exploded. So anyway, the same thing over here is we don't want to be like that, greased up Italian. And I guess I'm speaking about myself because I'm Italian, but we don't want to be that kind of person. That's just, buy an IUL. It's the best thing since sliced bread. No, care about the person. Figure out where they're trying to get to. If someone just comes into the car dealership and you're trying to sell them on a Ferrari, but then you find out they got 5 kids and they got to get to soccer practice or ballet practice or ballet recitals, whatever it is, the Ferrari is not going to suit them. That's where you might need to go with the minivan. So care about their needs and care about their goals. And that's going to help you guys sell at a very high level on the IUL side of things. And before we get into it, just some stuff that I always like to talk about when I'm doing these trainings. Make sure that you're always joining the weekly trainings. Do any of the advanced markets bootcamp that is available either at corporate or within your own agencies. And then educate and take action. So the stuff that we're going to go over today is really the base layer of providing you guys the knowledge to start doing a lot of the work on your own to figure out how to position this, all these products and how they fit into a retirement plan. So in terms of the education side of things, there's a couple books that I absolutely love that really helped me get rocking and rolling. It actually just helped one of my agents close his first deal on a lead that was a year old, one of my old leads. And he just started quoting, people like Walt Disney using whole life policies or JCPenney using whole life. And whole life is very similar to an IUL, a little bit different, but very, very similar. But anyway, Money Wealth Life Insurance by Jake Thompson is a great place to start. It's going to kind of be self-explanatory. It's going to talk about money, wealth, life insurance, and just kind of giving you guys a really good foundation as you're getting into more of the advanced market side. And then the next one's going to be The Power of Zero by David McKnight. One of my favorite books. Is a little bit more dense than the first one. The first one's I think it's 40, 50 pages and half picture pages. The Power of Zero, a little bit more, again, dense, but it's really, really good information on that side. And if you guys want to, go ahead, follow me at 360 Financial Group on Instagram. We're always posting about, different ways to structure IULs or annuities. And the last part here is, take action. Write a policy on yourself, because an IUL is like a marriage. And if you're going to write a policy on yourself, my gosh, you better make sure that you're doing it right. And that's when you're really going to start learning how to do the right things for the clients as well. And as we're going through this, some stuff that I want to keep you keep in the back of your mind on this stuff as well is number one, you are playing with somebody's future. So don't take that lightly. You know, someone's giving you 500, 600, $1,000 a month. That's a lot of freaking money. Make sure, you know, we're not fiduciaries if you got your life insurance license, but act like one. I'm always put the client in the best interest, or I always act in the best interest of the client. Number two, the barrier to entry in this industry is very low. Anyone can go out there and get their life insurance license, but to become an expert in this is what's going to set you apart. And on that number two, you know, a lot of people at the very beginning, myself included, and it's not bad to just work in your business. But as you start understanding how your business works, you can't forget to work on your business. And that's what's going to let you become an expert in this industry, is working on your business, not necessarily in the business. And one of our favorite quotes, we had David McKnight actually on one of our agency calls a couple years ago, and someone asked him how to sell more life insurance. His reply was simple: stop talking about life insurance. No one that has money wants to talk to the insurance guy or gal. Number four, honest money goes a lot further than fast money. You can make a lot of freaking money in the IUL space doing the wrong thing, but you're not going to be around too long, and you're probably not going to be able to sleep at night. So I'm going to help you figure out how to make honest money in this business. You might get paid a little bit less upfront, but you're going to be in this business a lot longer and probably generate a heck of a lot more referrals on that side. And number five, I always like to use something that I call the mom test. Is this what I would do for my mom? And obviously my mom's, you know, in her 60s, so an IUL would not be the right fit for her. But, you know, let's say my mom was 40 or 50 and I was a bit younger. Is this what I would do for her? And meaning, is this how I would set up her policy? And using that principle there, it really helps me make sure that I'm always setting up all my clients the correct way. And on the IUL space, we are not just selling products. You guys are helping people pay less in taxes. You are helping them grow their money safely and protect their income for the rest of their life. So you're going to want to learn, you know, a little bit about 401ks, Roth IRAs, and where an IUL can play a massive role in that. When you go to take money out of the IUL and a max funded one, you will not be paying taxes on the money that you take out because it's in the form of a loan, kind of like a cash out refinance on our house or a home equity line of credit. There's an interest on it, but the beauty about the IUL is that when it's done correctly, you do not have to pay that loan back, which is extremely important. And the last one, protect income for life too. There are some companies out there, you have what's called a lifetime income benefit rider. When they're done funding, let's say someone is funding it from 30 to 60, they stop funding it. They never make another payment again, and they can turn income on for the rest of their life that they cannot outlive. And that is very important because the retirees' top two concerns are one, running out of money in retirement, and number two is the market fluctuations. And an IUL can help out with both of those. And one thing that I always like to talk about too is that we're not all created equal. And everyone here, yes, but there's a lot of agents out there that do slimy stuff and make a lot of money doing the wrong thing. And a couple of things that they do to, you know, not act in the best interest of our clients, I want to share with you guys so you can make sure that you set yourself apart from these other people in the industry. And again, this is all going to be related to a max funded IUL policy. If you set up the IUL policy with a high death benefit, the fees are going to be really high. If there's bad customer relationship management on that, your business is going to fall off the books. If the policy design was poor, you're probably going to run into some chargebacks down the road. And none of that's good for you, and none of that's good for the clients either. And the last one, product pushers. You know, if you're just shoving an IUL down someone's throat, it might not be the best fit for them, and you're going to lose those bigger ticket clients. So we always want to solve a problem, not just push a product. So anyway, we're going to cover the max funded IULs. And again, Gary, if anyone has questions as we're going through this, let me know. Because right now it just looks like I am talking out of my screen with myself on a presentation, which I do not mind, but I always like seeing some people's reactions too. It's kind of fun.
I will let you know, but right now this is already fantastic, Dan. Your passion, your presence, your knowledge. I mean, I love the books and all the things. Just keep going, man. We're here. Cool. People are loving it. More
we'll
people.
I'll keep rocking for you guys here.
You're awesome, Dan.
So what is an IUL and what is an IUL not? So we're going to take it back really to the basics here. So an IUL is a type of permanent life insurance, meaning it should be around for the rest of your life. There is a cash component of it. So that's the death benefit and the cash value. So there's the two different components. We'll get to that in a second. A lot of the companies also have what's called living benefits. So if you ever get like a stroke, heart attack, cancer, you can't perform 2 out of the 6 daily activities each day. And I believe it was at the corporate conference in Dallas. Daniel Broadway was up on stage, and National Life Group wrote one of his clients a fat check because I believe she was a young gal who got diagnosed with cancer. So that's going to be the living benefit portion of it. And an IUL is also a phenomenal supplement to someone's existing retirement tools. And I say supplement because an IUL is not an investment. If you start calling an IUL investment, you will get reamed out by the negative Nancys and Karens of the world, because an IUL is not an investment. And what makes it good is, since it's not an investment, that's what makes it tax-free too. An IUL is not a replacement of a 401k or other investment vehicles. And that's stuff that I like to even use with a lot of my clients as well. I'll like straight up say, hey, you should definitely be contributing to your 401k, especially if you're getting matched. Contribute up to that match, boost other stuff that they are currently doing. And that will elevate their view of you, because they know that you're not just pushing something onto them. You're looking at their portfolio, really well-rounded. And that's where we're going to place the IUL. And an IUL is not the best thing since sliced bread. So a lot of people, if you guys are watching social media, say, hey, an IUL is amazing, 401ks suck. And it does great for marketing. But you guys as professionals, and 401ks can be very good, especially if you're getting matched. Roth IRAs are phenomenal. IULs are phenomenal. Everything is great. Term is phenomenal. Buy term investor difference can also be phenomenal. So you guys as professionals need to understand when one thing is more productive for a client. Anyway, we'll keep going through. So there are two main types of IULs. This should be very, very solid for any of the new folks on here that are listening in. And they're both IULs, but in terms of how we design the IUL is going to be very different. There's one of them that we structure for death benefit, and there's going to be another one that we structure for cash value. So my specialty that I work with, all of our ads and marketing, is around the cash value side of it. But if you're looking at like a death benefit IUL, this means that you're solving for like the target premium or less. You're not even putting in the target premium. And if you're using a death benefit IUL like this, even though the IUL will show that a client has cash inside of the policy, they should not use the cash unless there's an extreme emergency, just because the policy is never actually designed to do that. The second type of IUL, the max cash value policy, my favorite type of them, is going to be when clients are shoving in, $500, $1,000 a month. They don't really care too much about the life insurance. They just want the cash growth of and the tax benefits that they're getting from the growth side of it. And that's when you solve for what's called the minimum death benefit, maximum cash value. And we're typically going to use what's called an increasing death benefit. So when you do get into this and you're truly max funding policies, this is the right way to do it 8 times out of 10. We'll go through like a level death benefit policy as well. But I want to show you guys just some more of the good and bads. Who is this good for and who is it not good for? And this is what we go through with a lot of our agents too, because if you start learning who it's good for, what client is in front of you, you start learning what kind of questions to ask the person who's sitting on the other side of you. What are their goals? And just because the IUL is not a good fit for them, you might be able to help them out with a term policy as well. And that's where us as professionals got to figure out what is best for that individual client. So anyway, on the good side, it's good for people that want a permanent death benefit, leave a legacy. Anyone between the ages of 0 to 55 that's looking for a tax-free retirement or the max cash value. It is great for middle to high income earners looking for a tax-free retirement. And if you guys are curious how much you should be putting into an IUL, your clients, what we always say, a rule of thumb, and this is, again, a gray area, is 10 times your age on a monthly basis. So if your client is 40, they should be doing roughly $400 a month. Can you get by with $250, $300? Yes, you can. But that's always like a rule of thumb that we like to use. It's great for clients that want a well-rounded retirement portfolio, or other folks that are also maxing out their 401k match or their Roth IRA. Who is it bad for? Get rich quick people. Obviously insurance is not a get rich quick. It's actually a get rich slow, because the fees are a bit more heavy upfront in insurance and cheaper later. People that don't have any other assets or investments and they're trying to use insurance to build wealth, I don't know if I would necessarily pitch the IUL as the best strategy for them. For example, I did have a client the other day. She wanted to build wealth. She had no other investments in place. She was a single mother, had 2 kids, had no life insurance in place. So we helped her out with about a $70 a month life insurance policy that got her $500,000 of coverage. It's also not good for people that want to put in like $50 and access $1 million tomorrow. If you guys are running IUL leads, you've probably seen that before. They think you can loan from the big death benefit in place. That is not the case. We can loan from the cash inside the policy. And people that have a short-term time horizon. An IUL is like a fine wine. It's going to get better as it ages. If you just want to put in 100K and take out 90K tomorrow, that is not the best. An IUL would not be the best fit for that. And this is a graph, and this is just me dotting stuff on a presentation here. So it's not the most visually appealing, but I hope it makes sense for you guys as you're running through this. And this graph really helped me when I was first getting into the IUL space in terms of how to position it and where it fits in a retirement portfolio. So on the y-axis, you're going to see reward. So the higher up it is, the higher the reward. And on down here on the x-axis, we have time. I think that says time. I can't see it. It's hiding my screen.
Yeah.
But it should
say. I think if you click hide right next to stop sharing, that little thing will go away.
Yep. Okay. Actually, I don't think I actually copied over. It should say time. If it doesn't, it should say time on the bottom down here. I think when I was pulling it over to this presentation, it didn't come over with it. But the further, once you start over here on the bottom left, this is going to be like your banks, very low risk, low reward. But if you guys know you keep like 100K inside of a basic checking or savings account, you know, for anyone that's old enough here, you get like enough money and interest to go put a quarter in the gumball machine as you're leaving the bank, which you're getting nothing. You're lighting your money on fire. It's always good to have a savings account for like 3-6 months of expenses, but that's going to be really low risk, low reward down here. As you work your way up, you're going to get into more of the stock side of things, higher risk, higher reward. And then you're going to be looking at crypto, you know, very high risk, this should not say time. This should be risk. My bad. Instead of not reward and time, reward and risk. So the further it is on the x-axis, the riskier it is as well. So that's where you're going to have like your crypto stuff. It's very high risk, but higher reward. And IUL is going to fall a little bit outside of that line. So you're still going to see a decent bit of reward in it, but it's never meant to outperform the markets. It's meant to provide more stability in a well-rounded retirement portfolio. So it's going to be a little bit less risky than the rest of, you know, your stocks and crypto, but you're still going to see a pretty decent reward on it. And that's stuff that really helped me kind of figure out how to explain this to my clients as well. Like, why should I do this or this? I'm like, I'm not saying you should do one or the other. This is just what it is. You know, do you want something that's more risky or do you want something that's more secure? More secure. Cool. We go with an IUL. That's where it fits in a retirement plan. And next page. So in terms of designing an IUL, and this almost is exactly how I explain it to my clients as well. It's kind of like a little seesaw here. So there's two components into an IUL, and you have the death benefit and you got the cash value. So it's literally like a seesaw here. If the death benefit is very high, the cash value is going to be low. But if we drop the death benefit way down, the cash value is going to be a lot higher. And so like, imagine a client putting in $1,000 a month. If you were designing it for the most amount of death benefit, maybe, you know, $200, $300 goes to the cash value, and the rest of the $700 goes to maintaining a high death benefit. If we're max funding it, again, we're going to drop that death benefit down. So maybe only $200 goes to the death benefit, and the other $800 is going to go to the cash account. And that's the account that's going to grow for people that are using it for retirement. We'll get into some indexing strategies in a second, but it is important to know how an IUL actually grows money on the inside too. On the next two screens, I think this will help kind of show you the difference between a good design in terms of a max cash value policy. And if you guys are reviewing any policies, what I call replacement candy is for people that are just selling an IUL, they don't know what they're doing. And the death benefit's too high. I call that replacement candy because that means that it sucks for the client because they lost their money up until this point. But the good news is they were already sold an IUL and I just got to fix it for them. They're very, very simple sales to have. So I call that replacement candy. So a good IUL would look like this. And I'm going to read through this illustration so you guys have a little bit more of an understanding too how I talk about this stuff to my clients. So we're going to look at all the way on the left, you got policy year and age. All the way to the right, we have what's called a death benefit, which is pretty self-explanatory. So policy year and age, again, self-explanatory. We just have a 45-year-old male putting in $6,000 per month. Loan and income, we don't need to look at those two. And the accumulated value and the surrender value. These are the two most important columns that we're going to look at when we're explaining an illustration to a client. So the accumulated value, and I always like to use real estate terms. The reason I like to use real estate terms is because people can typically visualize real estate a bit more, being that it's like a tangible house that they either have a house, they got a mortgage. So I always like to use those terms when I'm talking about this stuff right here. The accumulated value is going to be like the value of the house. This is what your contract is always earning interest off of. The surrender value is going to be like the equity inside of your policy, what we have available to pull from out of the contract. And just because there is money here doesn't mean you should use it. Bob, Mary, whoever the client is. And the death benefit, pretty self-explanatory on that side. That's going to be the lowest amount of death benefit that we could get for a 45-year-old putting in $6,000 a year. But in terms of how this accumulated value works, and I'll explain this to my clients too, is that insurance is fee heavy up front. Why? Because if you die, they got to pay out a lot of money. However, insurance actually gets cheaper, especially as a percentage of cash value as we age, especially after like year 10, the fees really, really drop off. So if we look at year 10, we got 70K in there. And then if we go all the way down to year 20, we got 200,000 bucks in there. So a lot of the fees are falling off and you're letting compound interest do its thing. But an easy green flag that you can look at inside of an IUL policy that's designed for cash value purposes, are there any zeros in these early years? If there are zeros in these first couple years, that means the policy is not a maximum cash value policy. Too much is going to go cover the fees. That's why there's no value that's available here. So I would recommend you guys go play around with the illustration softwares. There's a lot of great companies that we have access to. Play around, get in there, get your hands dirty. You can't mess anything up in an illustration software. Go ahead and practice and just draw up some scenarios for yourselves. But this accumulated value is only ever going to go up. So even if you take money, you're taking money kind of out of the surrender value that insurance companies lending you money. But this account over here is only ever going to go up. Just like if you take a second mortgage out against your house, the value of the house didn't go down, even though there's less equity, the value still went up. So it's still gaining equity, or you're still gaining value and equity inside of the contract. So this would be a good policy design that we would look at. And if you're going to scroll all the way down here, keep your eyes over here to the 15,775. This would be an estimated, if this person was doing this, they would be able to receive about 15, 16K per year tax-free for the rest of their life. So this, again, is a good design. So I'm going to bring you through the replacement candy that I hate seeing, but I love to help the clients out with. So red flag, as you guys probably see, and you can even just drop in the chat, the biggest red flag that you guys see, there's a couple of them in here, is that the surrender value has zero and almost another zero for the first 3 years. You see the accumulated value is only about 3,300 versus 5,300, and the surrender value is less. Why? Because that means the fees are a lot more. Why are the fees a lot higher? Because the death benefit is 500K. Yeah. And typically, when we see this happen for one of our clients that we're now working with, is they just say, oh yeah, well, I just needed more life insurance. Okay, cool. And could you do it this way? Sure. But if you notice on the last screen, this client, when they're 65, had about 225,000 bucks in cash value inside the policy. And over here, when they're 65, they had about $146,000 and a lot less in retirement income. Changing 6,000 to 9,000 is really not that good of a deal after 22 years. So what I would do in this scenario, if a client really did need some extra life insurance, what do? I don't put it into the same IUL. I'm going to sell them another term policy for like an extra 3, 4, 500,000 bucks for the next 20 years. So that way, maybe the term policy after 20 years, yeah, maybe it cost them, 15K or something like that, but they don't have 146 in the account anymore. They have 225. So they got still an extra, 60, 70,000 bucks inside of their account. So it's going to be a way to provide a lot of value for your clients by truly figuring out if there is a need for life insurance. I do like to keep them separate. If this was just a death benefit policy designed for death benefit, and that's the purpose of it, solid, amazing. This is a good policy if it's just going to be designed for death benefit.
Dan, to jump right here though, like to help the agent who is thinking about themselves, right? We sell insurance to make money, and that's totally fine. You might be thinking about this single commission, right? But like the thought process is, if you can do it the way Dan is explaining about it, and max funding and keeping the death benefit low and selling them a second policy and explaining to the client why, you're going to make about the same money. If not, you might make more because the commission on the term is going to be great too. You sold 2 policies. You nearly guaranteed they're never going to talk to another agent. If anyone comes behind you to try to re-explain or look for replacement candy in your own client, you've already set it up where there's nothing to be replaced because you set it up perfectly. And that's where there's a lot of conversations about how to fund and how to structure IULs. But if you just go write 2 policies, take an extra 40 minutes, the client's going to love you. So will you touch on that for just 30 seconds about, you said it without saying it, but I just wanted to
My policies don't get replaced, Grady. So
Good.
No one's coming behind me and ever replacing one of my policies. Why? Because all the clients are truly in the best position that they could be in. If they decide to just cancel the IUL and invest, okay, that's a different conversation. But none of the IULs get replaced with a different IUL. Yes, my commission, when I'm doing this, our commission as insurance agents is based on the death benefit. So if you're max funding a policy, your commissions will probably be about 1/3 to 1/4 of what they would be if you just sold a high death benefit policy. When you add on that term policy, you're getting pretty dang close to the same amount of commission and providing the client with an extremely more amount of value And that is where I have a lot of referrals that come in the door to me, because the clients that we work with know that we truly put them in the best possible position, and we just save them about 60 to 80,000 bucks. So when we do that, guess what the client's going to talk? Great. They're going to go talk to their friends. Hey, we got a phenomenal life insurance agent. You got to go talk to him. The same thing just happened to me yesterday. I hit up a referral, had the appointment. That's going to be like a $7,000, $8,000 target premium on that side. They're going to be dumping in some money because we set them, their family up the right way. Awesome. And they know that you're taking the time to show them this kind of stuff too, and why this is the best way to do what we're doing. So yeah, do the right thing, because that will also help you sleep at night a lot better too. Knowing that you're not going to have some agent come around, and you're not going to have me come replace your policy. You're going to lose that money. I'm going to take your money, and I'm going to sleep at night, and then you're going to be double pissed. So don't be that person. Not that I would replace any of your policies, but you guys understand what I'm saying.
You will do what's best for the client though, and that's okay.
Yep. Exactly. And if there is a need for death benefit, there's no reason that if I was selling a high death benefit policy in an IUL, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just letting the client know they shouldn't really use it for cash value if it's set up for death benefit. Everything is really good at one thing. A death benefit IUL is really good for a death benefit IUL. A cash value IUL policy is really good at a cash value IUL policy. I do not like to combine them and be like a hybrid. I like to keep them separate and just add a term policy if there's a reason for a lot of death benefit. So anyway, the indexing strategy is very important for you guys to know. If you guys are selling IULs, how does the money actually grow inside of the IUL? Well, it grows linked to some type of index like the S&P 500. And this is, I always ask my clients, hey, do you understand what the S&P 500 is? There's two basic types of indexes, as you guys are going to see in all the illustration softwares. You're going to have your cap-focused ones. And when I first got selling IULs, I thought the cap-focused one sucks because it means they put a ceiling on how much money that I could earn. So you're going to be like hovering anywhere between the floor of 0%. So we're never going to go backwards. And we can go up to like 9, 10, 11%, depending on the company. And so we're going to hover somewhere in between there. I'm like, hey, give me the uncapped strategy, and I want to see 20% returns in my IUL. That's never going to happen. So there's other ones that are called participation focused. And you'll see stuff that's labeled like Barclays, Paysetter, BlackRock, Morgan Stanley. These are going to be what's called your participation or volatility control indexes that typically have what's called a participation rate on it. And go ahead and play with the software. I know this is getting a little bit more on the advanced, so this is probably going to be more to those people that are 1, 2, and 3 in terms of the IUL knowledge, but it's really good stuff to take note and start learning how this stuff works. So if I was putting all my money into an IUL, I'm probably going to put 80 to 100% of it into the S&P 500 indexes. So it might show on your illustration that it's not going to be as good, but it should be better overall, because an illustration is simply that, an illustration. What actually matters is what's under the hood. How is it actually running? Now, if you had a Ferrari and then put like a 1990 Honda Civic engine in it, it's still going to look like a Ferrari, but when you go to drive it, that sucker's, they're not going to be happy with that. It doesn't have the horsepower that they were looking for. The reason I don't love a lot of these indexes down here is because they're very new. Even though they have uncapped strategies, the indexes are very new, and typically they're not really designed to do more than 1, 2, 3% in a given year. So that's why they have to have like a 200% participation rate, because they're never actually designed to do that well. And inside an IUL, that's okay, but that's just why they have a high participation rate. So with all my clients, I like to say, would you rather me put lipstick on a pig and show you something big and sexy? Or would you rather me show you something that's more realistic and a lot more conservative for your estimates? And they always say a lot more conservative. So that way I'm never getting price shopped around, right? So no one's going to come behind me. Oh, well, this person showed me an extra 20, 30% income. I'm like, cool. Where they link it up to? This index, cool. Did you know that index actually went backwards for the last 5 years since it came out? What do you mean? Well, they're going to illustrate it at 7%, but the index has actually never been positive. So that's why I never like selling on an illustration. I like to sell before I ever get to the illustration, provide a lot of value for that client. This is how I personally max fund my personal IUL policy. In case any of you guys were curious, I set mine up simple, minimum death benefit, max cash value. I said, hey, I want to put in this amount per month. I'm going to set it up with what's called the min death benefit max cash value. So if you're ever in the illustration softwares, that's what I use right there. I personally set mine up for an increasing death benefit. And the same thing that I'm going to do for myself is the same thing that I'm going to do for my clients. I give them an option, what they want, but this is typically where I'm going to lead. If someone's only funding an IUL for about 7 to 10 years or less, a level death benefit is probably actually going to be better for them just in regards to how the cost works. And I linked up my personal policy to the S&P 500. Because again, I'd rather have something that's tried and true. You know, the precursor to the S&P has been around since 1920. So there's a lot of data behind that. So I don't want to gamble my money and stuff that we don't have any data on yet. So that's how I set up my policy. And if you guys are taking notes here, unless Grady, you want me to go deeper into this, because I know we're already over 4 o'clock or 4 o'clock Eastern time. But these are just really, really good terms for you guys to learn. If you're going to start becoming an expert, this is where the barrier to entry is very low, but the barrier to become an expert in this is very high. You got to learn, the net terms like this, the net amount at risk. You need to learn the actual difference between increasing and level and what's better, not for your pocket, but what's better for the client. And again, because the honest money goes a lot further than fast money. You go on to learn about the different indexing options that are available inside of the IUL. Just like if you're going to go start investing in a brokerage account, you're probably not just going to put your money in the top index that you just see and you don't have anything, you don't know what stocks are even in that index. The same concept is true over here, right? We want to know, hey, where is our money actually linked to? How is it going to grow? And you want to also learn about different loan options. How can people actually use the money inside of the IUL? So those are all topics that you guys would want to learn. And at the end of it, I want to just give you guys some sales tips and tricks here. So again, your job is not to sell a product, it's to solve a problem. So this is pretty much how the basis of all my conversations and presentations go. Hey, this is Dan over at 360 Financial Group. How can I help you? I like to ask them just, how can I help you? And they are going to tell you exactly what they're trying to accomplish. And this is pretty much like discovering the why. And when I ask, how can I help you? Something as simple as that, they start giving me a bunch of things that they're trying to do with their life. And that is where we're going to find value for the IUL when they tell us what they're trying to accomplish. And if they're not really giving me anything here, I'm not going to go to the next steps. I got to figure out what problem do they have and how can I solve it? The sale of an IUL happens before you ever get to the illustration. Could you get to the illustration and show some numbers and make a sale? Sure, you 100% could. But every single client I sit with, they're sold before we ever get to the illustration. Before they've ever seen a single number on a screen, they're going to be sold before we ever get to that. I'm not actually going to show Grady an illustration with anyone unless I know that this could help them. Then I'll get into an illustration just to confirm what we are doing. And I like to use a little line right here. Like, hey, based on what you're telling me, this could be an extremely smart move for you to get into an IUL, to build some wealth and provide a little death benefit protection for your family. And then Bob, hey, if we can help you with X, Y, and Z, are you ready to start actioning on all those goals you just told me about? And that's where the close is right here. The close is not at the illustration. The close is right here. I want to get them to say yes or no at this point. And if they don't give me a strong yes, there's a book over here I really like, Never Split the Difference, like a negotiator in the military, really, really solid. But it's really good for business stuff as well. And there's like 3 different types of yeses that he talks about. It's like, yeah, which means it's bullshit. It means no. So what kind of yes is your client actually giving you? So I would like to make sure the zoom's on so I can see their facial expressions, because the body language is telling more than what they're actually saying with their words. And if they say yes, well, that means, well, hey, it sounds like there's some concern here, Bob. Is there something else that we need to go over and something else that we need to help you with, and go back to the beginning? And once I have a very strong yes here, Grady, that's when I finally move forward. But if I don't get a strong yes here, that's it. That's where the conversation ends. So that's what I got on the IUL side of things. So I hope that helped you guys a bit. I don't know if there were any questions in there, but that was, how do I stop sharing now? Okay. Stop sharing? Okay.
Yeah, and just phenomenal. If you have any quick questions that aren't, crazy, hell, Dan's crazy. Dan's fantastic. So if you got any quick questions, but one good one from Riyadh was, do you use something like this to present to your clients on Zoom or Crank Wheel as you're explaining it? Do you use something like the presentation which you went through?
Great question. Let me talk. Let me get a glass of water for a second. Great question, Riyadh. So I don't use anything with my clients. I use nothing. I just sit here. I ask them, hey, well, we'll talk a little bit, about what your goals are, or share with what I do. But the thing is here, hey, we're just going to figure out, Bob, is there a way that I can help you? And if yes, cool, I'll be your agent, and you got me for life. So you're not going to be able to get rid of me. And if this doesn't help you, I'll literally tell you that this doesn't help you. If you're my mom, that I would say, no, don't do this. And I just like to be very transparent and honest. So is it cool if I just give you like my honest feedback as we're going through this? And so that little line right there has helped me a lot, because I'm being from Jersey in a northeastern household. I can come across as an a-hole sometimes, but I'm not actually meaning to. So when I say that to a client, it doesn't come across now like, if I'm talking to someone in the Northeast, they get it. It's whatever. But now I can literally say whatever I need to say to this client, and I can be fully transparent. Hey, Bob, it seems like there's some hesitation going on here. Is there something else you need to talk about, without it being like weird or any friction in that? But no, Riyadh, I just sit here and I just, hey, how can I help you, Bob? And I just let them talk. Awesome. And I'm trying to figure out what they are trying to accomplish. And that's when we go through, like, I'll go through some like financial inventory, Riyadh, and that'll help me figure out like what other assets do they have in place. Like, yeah, I want to use this for retirement. Okay, cool. Hey, what else do you have in place for retirement, Bob? Is this the only thing that you're looking at? Or, do you have other avenues that you're also working on? And I want a well-rounded picture of their portfolio. I want to know what they got, so figure out how I can actually help them the best. Because maybe they don't need an IUL for cash value. Maybe they need it for death benefit. Who knows? But to keep it simple, no, I don't use anything with my clients. I just all over Zoom. I want to see them face to face. And then we just sit there and talk for the first 10, 15 minutes.
Cool. I love it. Question came in a couple different ways. Death benefit at increasing, what is your philosophy? Do you leave it at increasing? Do you start at level and move it? Do you put it at increasing and then drop it down a level? Like, what's your...
So great question.
Based on a funded IUL. We don't need to get all, every exception.
So you guys need to do some extra research on this, because I could sit here and talk on this and go over all these different terminologies for a long time. But to keep it very simple, you always want a min death benefit, max accumulation, and an increasing death benefit. You never want to put it at a high death benefit and increasing. Now you got paid a lot and screwed over the agent even more, or screwed over the client even more, and you got nothing for it. So not that we ever do it to do something like that, but you're typically going to go from increasing to level. So you never want to go from level to increasing in a max funded policy. You always want to go from increasing to level. And when you level it off is when the client stops funding it. When the client stops funding it, you just say, hey, we got to make sure to change that to level, and we're all good to go. So keeping it increasing, to keep it short and sweet, increasing keeps the fees down early on. Putting it to level crushes the cost of insurance later on. So there's two types of fees in life insurance. You got the fees and cost of insurance. Insurance is fee heavy up front, cost of insurance heavy later. So doing increasing early drops the fees early. If you did level, the death benefit's too high, so the fees are higher. When you change it to level, you're actually changing the way that the cost of insurance is calculated. So it keeps the cost of insurance down later on.
Awesome. All right, last one. Take us home. What company do you write the most?
So I'm going to start with this. So I do write a lot of National Life Group. However, it matters a lot more about the design of the policy than the reputation of the company. So do I want to always work with a great company? Yes, 100%. There's a ton of great companies out there in the IUL space, but it matters a lot more about how the policy is actually designed. Because, I think National Life Group is one of they're very, very reputable, one of the top IUL carriers. I could write a very bad policy with National Life Group, and I can go to company Y, and some client had a much better designed policy. This policy is going to crush this policy. Even though this company is better, the better designed policy is always going to win. So it matters a lot more how you guys design the policy than the company that you're actually, sorry about that, than the company that you're actually writing it with.
Dan, you're a pro. Everyone, please give him some love. Drop some DCs in the chat below. Show him some love, some gratitude. This is by far and wide one of the best IUL trainings I've ever been privileged to been a part of. We'll have it out on YouTube here in a couple days. But Dan, thank you so much, brother. Appreciate you. Appreciate your passion. Appreciate your hundreds, if not thousands of hours you put into learning these products and being able to share with all of us. And everybody, please, follow Dan on social, 360 Financial. It's a freaking great
360
name.
Financial Group on Instagram. You can find us.
Great name, man. So, Dan, thank you. Any final thoughts to send these agents off on their IUL hunting and journey?
Go be the expert. Write a policy on yourself, and if you think that you did a good job on yourself, you're ready to sell to your clients.
Amen.
Keep it simple.
Well, thank you, Dan. Everybody, thank you so much. Have an amazing day. Talk to you soon. Thank you again, Dan. Take care, brother. All right, everybody. Bye for now.